Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. A good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Chances are, if you're in Florida, you're not doing so great. Anxiety is probably sky high, and you're hunkering down, getting ready, especially for folks who did not evacuate. But here it is. We're going to skip the intro. We're going to dive right into this, and I'm basically going to do my part in giving you guys an update. I understand there's a lot of storm chasers out there going live. There's a lot of people on YouTube, kind of like what I do, that are actually giving you live feeds, updates. I definitely, if you can maintain power in Florida and some kind of internet source, I definitely recommend checking those out because they're giving you live, up-to-date information. One day, hopefully, I can be able to do that for you guys. But anyways, forget all that. Hurricane Ian right now. It's a 140-mile-per-hour hurricane, guys. It's a major Category 4 hurricane. And this is it. This is it according to Radar Scope. This is the eye. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that. And listen, this is heading right toward. It's probably going to make landfall north of Cape Coral, south of Sarasota, more than likely somewhere in this general area. If I had to guess, probably more so in this area. So it's coming. And you see this lightning in the eye wall, in the northern eye wall. That indicates a very strong system, guys. It takes a very strong hurricane to get lightning in the eye wall. And this has a chance to strengthen a little bit more before landfall. I know it looks very close. It looks like it's going to make landfall within the hour, but this is really, really it's really starting to slow down, which isn't good news. But you notice we talked about this last night. This is wrapping dry air. So you're getting a break in this area of Florida, and probably will continue to have a break. You'll get outer bands that work their way through. But this area of Florida last night got hit hard by tornadoes. I've seen a lot of videos. And I hope folks are doing well out there with that. But I saw a lot of damage. So that's definitely something that, obviously wasn't talked about as much due to the fact that you literally have a major hurricane bearing down on the area. But here it is. I mean, the worst conditions, guys, are going to be in this northern eye wall. So whoever gets lashed by the northern eye wall, guys, I can't say this or stress this enough. Catastrophic, life-threatening conditions in this eye wall. I don't know if you're going to get a full-on stadium effect in here, meaning whoever, storm chaser-wise or wherever you're located, whoever actually gets into the middle of this storm is actually going to see clear skies ahead of you because it's going to make landfall in the middle of the day. It really takes a strong Category 4, Category 5 hurricane for you to actually visibly see a stadium effect in the middle of these storms. But listen, this is coming. I'm starting to think Tampa Bay might miss this northern eye wall. I think that the center of this is going to come like this, and I think the eye wall might hit that area right there. But we're going to see what happens, guys. But this is it. This is the storm. Or really broader look at this and how big the storm is. I mean, this eye wall, this eye let alone, let me see if I can get some distances here. It's very large. Here, I pushed the wrong icon. Eye wall is, over 30 miles wide. I keep saying eye wall, but the center of circulation, the eye of the storm, is around 30 miles wide. It's a pretty wide eye, if I say so. So someone's going to get in it. Here's another way to look at it. And what this looks like, you can see the cold cloud tops right here in the pink. This indicates some intense convection and continued strengthening. Obviously, the center of the storm being right here. And the worst part of this storm is going to be on the northern to northwest flank of the eye wall. So whoever gets hit the hardest with that, that's where we're going to see the worst conditions. So latest hurricane update on what we're seeing per the 5 a.m. advisory, 140-mile-per-hour storm. It's now moving north-northeast at around 10 miles per hour. Forecast to continue to be a hurricane around 2 a.m. tonight over Florida. Tropical storm, it'll weaken to that around 2 p.m. tomorrow. But look, now all indications show that this is going to reemerge back over water off the coast of northeast Florida and Georgia, and then make a secondary landfall somewhere maybe in and around the Savannah area. So this has a chance to re-strengthen a little bit as it goes into South Carolina. I really think schools are going to get canceled for a lot of folks in South Carolina, areas of Georgia, maybe even North Carolina for Friday. I really do. It seems like times have changed. I remember going to school in middle school during a weak tropical storm here in Columbia, South Carolina. But times have definitely changed. The safety rules with buses and not driving in a certain mile mile-per-hour wind has certainly changed, and that's good. We need to keep our kids safe. But here you go. Another way to look at this, zoom Earth, 140 mile-per-hour landfall expected earlier or maybe sometime middle of this afternoon. In the center of the storm, it's expected to go north of Cape Coral, real close to Northport, south of Sarasota. But listen, I'm telling you, somewhere in this area is going to get hit hard by that eye wall. Sarasota might be an area. Forecast to still be an 80-mile-per-hour hurricane by the time it's getting into the middle of the peninsula of Florida. Try to zoom out, see Orlando. Orlando right here. This is forecast to still be a hurricane technically as it moves in and around the Orlando area. The center of whatever's left of the circulation could go right over Orlando sometime overnight into the wee hours of the morning and to tomorrow around late morning. Then it's going to reemerge, hit Daytona Beach pretty good as a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm around 2 a.m. Friday. And then around 2 p.m. Friday, still be a tropical storm. I'll be interested to see if we get any kind of updates in this area. This is a zoom out a little bit off the coast of the southeast. If this little icon might go to a higher number, remember, indicating maybe that this strengthens, then the remnants of this makes landfall as a tropical storm. You got tropical storm warnings up all the way through Charleston, just south of Myrtle Beach. And then it's obviously going to weaken into a depression as it moves into the areas of the Midlands of South Carolina by the time we get into around 2 a.m. Saturday. So it's a big deal, folks. Let's go on and talk about impacts. Let's take a look at the latest European and what we're seeing here. As we're moving through the morning hours, listen, in a couple hours, over 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts are going to move into the Cape Coral area, will likely reach all the way up to the Sarasota area and everywhere in between. The jury is still out if this inner eye wall, the northerly to northwest eye wall, makes it into southern areas of Tampa Bay. There's a strong possibility that just north of Tampa Bay has significantly less winds than the southern areas of Tampa Bay. So that's a high chance. I think, listen, I'm telling you, it's a different beast than an eye wall. I chased Ida last year. I witnessed that in person for the first time. You know, it's windy leading up to the hurricane, but when that eye wall moves in, basically the eye wall being the area around the actual center of the storm, and it's a different ball game, guys. It really is. The destruction goes from major to catastrophic very, very quickly. So whoever gets thrashed by this eye wall, it's not going to be good. And I really think the northern, the northwest, the western part of this eye wall is going to be the worst. So this afternoon, you're going to start to see some wild video out of this area. But I really think south of Tampa Bay to Cape Coral is going to be hit the hardest with the strongest winds. This continues to move inland, and we're getting into this evening at this point. Orlando being up here, the strong winds begin to pick up later this evening. And listen, I mean, this is well inland at this point. Still winds gusting. This is not consistent wind speeds. Winds gusting to over 100 miles per hour, even well inland, based off the European model. Then obviously you can tell those colors start to go away. Land interaction weakens the storm. We're starting to wake up Thursday morning. This storm is just drifting. But I want you to notice, if you look up here, and I'll get a little closer to this, winds are already picking up. You have a stout easterly flow in general, and even a northeasterly flow coming down from the center of this circulation right here. So this is going to bring some stout winds into Jacksonville. That's why you are predicted to have some decent storm surge in this area, guys. But this is going to continue to merge off the coast, and winds could increase again sometime Thursday evening. And then it gets back over to water, and we got to see what happens here. So we'll talk a little bit about areas further north here in a second. But here we go. Potential rainfall expected. Listen, 10 to 15 inches of rain in and around the Tampa Bay area, just north to just south. Cape Coral areas to the southeast, a dry slot develops and not as much rainfall expected today. I would argue that you probably got more rainfall over the last 48 hours that you'll have the rest of the storm. And the storm hadn't even made landfall yet. But there's going to be a corridor of very heavy rain around Orlando, points north to northeast, where this begins to really bog down and slow down somewhat. I think 15 to 20 inches of rain is very possible. This is the blend of all models. So the freshwater threat of flooding is there. I know everybody's talking about storm surge and the ocean water coming up. Obviously, that's an obvious threat. but just pure rain falling from the sky is going to be a significant threat, guys, right through the central to north central areas of the peninsula of Florida. Let's take a look at some model guidance here and take a look at what this looks like. This is verifying a little bit too low as far as how strong, but I think the H-Wharf model, which is a hurricane model, is doing a pretty decent job at showing us what could happen. I think this is a little bit too far north. We're hoping that this does not happen for Tampa Bay, because if this happens, then this makes landfall sometime this afternoon in the northern to northwest eye wall, slams Tampa Bay. So we're hoping this is a little bit further south. It's a feast or famine kind of thing, but obviously a higher population in Tampa Bay. But there's a possibility that the eye wall does get into this area. But look at all these little feeder bands right here. This could promote a tornado threat throughout the afternoon areas for eastern areas of Florida with that northeast to eastern quadrant of the storm. This continues to move inland. Hits, there's still going to be an eye wall feature right here to the north, but a lot of dry air begins to get wrapped into the southern areas of the storm. So I think there'll be a stout precipitation cutoff where you'll have a ton of precipitation, rainfall, and a lack of it down to the south as dry air wraps into the system, which ultimately really weakens this storm significantly, that and land interaction. But you keep going here, and this is bringing significant conditions to Orlando. This is, if the H-Wharf model is correct, would bring some full-fledged tropical storm conditions to even Jacksonville, southern areas of Georgia, far southeast areas of Georgia. Then it moves back out over water, guys. Never really indicates any real strengthening. But look, there's not much going on the southern end, but look at all this rain moving into South Carolina, areas of eastern Georgia. And this is a ton of rain that could really get amplified. And it has still a 993 millibar low pressure moving right into the middle of South Carolina Friday evening, and then bringing a ton of rain to the southern Appalachian Mountains. So let's look at other model guidance here. The GFS continues with that east look. It hasn't really ticked east anymore. The latest model moves over Florida. This is a now thing over Florida. Moves over Florida, reemerges off the eastern coast of Florida sometime Friday morning. And look how this millibar drops a little bit from 987 to 986. That indicates a little bit of strengthening. This is for Friday evening. Makes landfall somewhere around the Savannah area and brings a ton of moisture into South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. A lot of moisture is possible even into Virginia. And then this would bring some isolated tropical storm force conditions well inland, even to Columbia, South Carolina, Augusta, Georgia, maybe up to Charlotte, Greensville. It's possible that this remains intact. This is something that's been developing over the last 24 to 36 hours. We look at the Euro, same situation, makes landfall. Southwest Florida, somewhere between Cape Coral and Tampa Bay, most likely reemerges off the northeast coast of Florida, tries to strengthen. Now the European tries to strengthen this from a 987 to a 986. So it's actually pretty incredible that the European and the GFS are right in alignment about 48 to 60 hours out, that this could re-intensify. Makes landfall, same thing as the GFS, is a 984 millibar low pressure. The European's a little bit stronger, but makes landfall in and around the Savannah area around Friday evening. Starts to bring a lot of moisture into the area and brings a sub 1,000 millibar low pressure storm right into the Augusta, Columbia area as we're getting into Saturday morning, guys. So we have seen some crazy things happen off the coast of the southeast. We have, but how far east does this get off the coast of the southeast? That's a big question, because if it gets way off, then it does have a chance to not significantly strengthen, but to strengthen a little bit more. Here's the latest ensembles for the European. It shows the idea that a lot more of these members, I would say 60 to 70% of these members, now get it off the coast of the southeast. And if you notice, they're green and then go back to yellow, some of them, which indicates, you see green to yellow up here, indicates that this re-intensifies. And a lot of these have this making landfall as a tropical storm, some of them as a low-end Category 1 hurricane. That'll be very interesting if that develops. So we got to watch out, even in Georgia and the Carolinas. This is going to be likely now a second landfall. So you're going to have a stout northeasterly flow as the center of circulation's right here. So the flow is moving like this. So storm surge, it could be an issue in and around the Jacksonville area, up to the Savannah area, Savannah River, and even up to Charleston. There's going to be coastal flooding, even on this side of the storm. But obviously the worst is happening right now. Water is being pushed into southwest Florida, anywhere from 6 to as high as 12 foot of storm surge is possible. So please, please just be careful if you decided to stay. I can't blame anybody for wanting to stay. I can't. A lot of people frown upon that. But if I was in that situation in Florida, I'll be honest with you. Not just because I'm a weather nerd, but I'll be completely honest with you. If I was in the situation, and even if that thing was heading right towards my house, I would stay put, and I would tell my family to leave. I would get my family to safety, but I would stay put. It would be very hard for me to leave my house. It really would. I know, that's probably promoting bad advice, but you know me, I always keep it honest with you guys. But I would stay put, and I would want to stay there with my house and try to do what I can to one, help others around me who's also trapped and things like that. But two, try to preserve as much belonging as possible. I know you can replace belongings and you can't replace your life, but that's honestly what I would do. I'm just speaking out loud. But winds, we'll start this for tomorrow morning. I mean, it's going to start to get gusty tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow morning for Georgia, South Carolina, even North Carolina. But look at these intense winds off the coast of South Carolina and Georgia. I mean, these are winds pushing 60, 70 miles per hour just off the coast. This is going to bring some flooding. But as this actual storm begins to move north towards Georgia and South Carolina, there's going to be a period down Savannah, Edisto Beach, Huntington Island, the barrier islands into Georgia, that you guys could potentially see brief hurricane force conditions, at least wind gust wise. But as this moves in, it starts to move inland. We get into Friday morning, Friday afternoon. Look at this, 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts starting to move north to northwest into South Carolina as this makes a secondary landfall. So bring some gusty winds along with heavy rain. This is rainfall expected per the latest national blend of all models. A lot of rain expected, especially the coastal areas, anywhere from, I would say, 5 to as much as 8 inches of rain as possible. But look at this area in southeast Virginia. You guys could get a nasty fetch of moisture, especially if this continues to trend to more of a northerly landfall along South Carolina. So there's a reason that you guys have tropical storm warnings all the way up into South Carolina, guys. There really is. This is going to be a big deal, I think, even for South Carolina and Georgia. But we need to continue to figure out what's going to happen. But I think schools will be canceled Friday, and I think this will turn to a more serious situation for South Carolina and Georgia in the coming next 24 to 48 hours. Do I think it's going to be a catastrophic situation? No, I do not. But down here in southwest Florida, absolutely, where hurricane warnings are in effect. But that's all I got, guys. Y'all stay safe out there. God bless. We'll take one last look at this will be the last time we look at Hurricane Ian before it ultimately makes landfall. And it's looking as literally as healthy as it has during its entire lifespan. So prayers for everybody. Port Charlotte, Cape Coral, Sarasota. This is the area that you don't want to see right here. The northwest flank of this eye wall is dangerous, guys. It is dangerous. So God bless all y'all. Stay safe out there. Follow me on Twitter. It's a great way to keep up to date. I'll try to keep you guys posted as much as possible, especially if you live north into the Carolinas, as we are still trying to figure out what's going to happen up here. But down here in Florida, it's inevitable. It's coming. So stay safe. God bless. Praying for you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon.